Imagine every day you live in fear that you're next of being one of the accused, tortured, and killed. This was the fear of most who lived during the time of the Salem witch trials, which took place in colonial Massachusetts between 1692 and 1693. Nobody was safe, according to a History of Massachusetts blog article posted on February 20th, 2012. Even 2 dogs were accused and killed of being in alliance with the devil. Dogs! So, what were the Salem witch trials? The Salem witch trials were a series of investigations and prosecutions that resulted in many suspects imprisoned and around 24 people in total labeled as witches to be hanged and or killed. Today, I will tell you how this frenzy started, the events that happened in between, and how it all came to an end. In an article posted by Smithsonian Magazine on October 23, 2007, the unfortunate events that took place in Salem, Massachusetts first started with the daughter and niece of Reverend Samuel Parris, Salem's first ordained minister in 1689. In January of 1692, 9-year-old Elizabeth Parris and her 11-year-old cousin Abigail Williams started behaving very strangely. As stated in an article published by History on November 4, 2011, the girls started to throw weird fits, which also included uncontrollable outbursts of screaming and violent contortions. William Griggs, the local doctor in the village at the time, was called to examine the girls. After the assessment, Griggs diagnosed them with bewitchment. Soon after this incident, other young girls in Salem Village started to display the same similar symptoms. After all being diagnosed with bewitchment, the girls were pressured by magistrates Jonathan Corwin and John Hawthorne to expose the witches responsible for their behaviors. They gave 3 names: Tituba, the Caribbean Paris slave; a homeless Sarah Good; and Sarah Osborne, an elderly poor woman. I would now like to shift my attention to the main gruesome events that took place after the girls accused these 3 women of witchcraft. The interrogation of these women first started on March 1st, 1692. Both Sarah Good and Osborne claimed innocence when questioned by the magistrates. Tituba, on the other hand, confessed to being in alliance with the devil and admitted to signing the devil's book, along with several other witches that looked to destroy Puritan ways. She most likely did this to save herself from a worse conviction by acting as an informer. This confession led to their imprisonment in the village jail. According to an article posted by Biography on September 1st, 2017, the witch jail was a dark, cold, wet dungeon infested with rats. As hysteria spread through the village, more and more victims were jailed in these conditions to await trial. Like Tituba, others gave false confessions to pardon themselves and turn attention elsewhere. In May 1692, with over 150 people accused, the governor of Massachusetts, William Phips, created the Court of Oyer and Terminer for witchcraft hearing cases. Altogether, there were 4 execution dates. Bridget Bishop was the first to be hanged on June 10, 1692. About a month later, on July 19, 1692, Sarah Good, Rebecca Nurse, Susanna Martin, Elizabeth Howe, and Sarah Wilds were executed. On August 19, 1692, 5 more people unfortunately were hanged, including Martha Carrier and 4 men. The last execution date took place on September 22, 1692. 8 were hanged. Other victims were also killed outside of the hangings. 71-year-old Giles Corey, husband of previously murdered victim Martha Corey, was pressed to death with heavy stone. This was his punishment for refusing to enter an innocent or guilty plea to the court. 4 others died in the dungeons due to horrible living conditions. The Salem witch trials ended in less than a year. During this time, many were imprisoned for their assumed involvement with witchcraft. According to an article published by Britannica, edited on June 11, 2021, accusations extended past Salem Village to nearby communities like Lynn, Andover, and even Boston. Things were getting out of control. Seeing that many were being convicted, Increase Mather, Harvard's president, as well as a very well-respected minister, deemed spectral evidence as unfit to be used in court on October 3rd, 1692. This idea was later enforced by Governor Phips, whose wife was then accused. Due to this incident, Phips reformed the Court of Oyer and Terminer and established it into a court of judicature that officially didn't allow spectral evidence, the main use of evidence for convicting a witch. Phips eventually pardoned all those involved in the trials by May of 1693. The trials were over. Today, we talked about how the Salem witch trials began, events that took place in between, and how these tragic happenings came to an end. The ignorance of those involved caused the lives of many to be ruined and left a dark mark on America's history. We today have to be aware of ignorance and never let fear get in the way of our reasoning. When faced with injustice, we mustn't let our spirit die, like Giles Corey as he told his accusers to add more weight, fighting the unjust system of Salem until death.